questions. Then we'll move to our presentations. We'll have about 10 minutes for questions and touch on program updates at the end if we have some time. But our priority is for our guest speakers to have enough time to talk to the audience, answer any questions that you guys may have. And before we get started, this is our small but mighty team at Reach Out and Read of Greater New York. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to any of us. Moving on to the next slide. So about today's session, Building Literacy-Rich Environments will highlight the importance of creating literacy-rich environments in pediatric waiting rooms. Together, we'll explore why early literacy-rich environments matter for child development and family engagement. We'll discuss common challenges in building and maintaining engaging waiting rooms and share strategies and tools to enhance these spaces so families are inspired to read, talk, and connect while they wait. It is my honor to welcome our speakers for today. We have Dr. Leora Mogilner and Dr. Blair Hammond. Dr. Leora Mogilner is an associate professor of pediatrics at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where she directs resident training in advocacy and community pediatrics and serves as an associate program director for pediatric residency program. She co-directs Kids Thrive, a social determinants of health screening program, and founded the Mount Sinai Reach Out and Read program back in 1997. As a medical director for Reach Out and Read of Greater New York since 2009 and founding board member, Dr. Mogilner is deeply committed to promoting literacy and family engagement in pediatric care. We also have Dr. Blair Hammond, who is a board-certified pediatrician who serves as an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics at Mount Sinai. She completed her medical training at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, where she was elected into the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society, pursued her residency training in pediatrics at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where she received the Clinician Educator Award. She later completed the Medical Education Fellowship at Mount Sinai and served as the Pediatric Clerkship and Sub-Internship Course Director from 2006 to 2017. In 2008, Dr. Hammond founded the General Pediatrics Faculty Practice, where she still practices today. In 2010, she was awarded the Mount Sinai Excellence in Teaching Award. Dr. Hammond is now the co-founding director and director of medical education for Mount Sinai Parenting Center. She continues to be deeply involved in the medical student and resident education, in addition to her general pediatric practice. So everyone, please join me to welcome our guest speakers, and I'll pass the floor to Dr. Mogilner.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jessie, so much. I just wanted to sort of cue up what we're going to be doing. As Jessie mentioned, we're going to be talking about how we can create and promote literacy-rich environments, something we're all very interested in. And I'm going to be giving some more sort of personal and specific examples, and then I'm going to be turning it over to Blair, who's going to be speaking about some incredible tools that the Mount Sinai Parenting Center has developed and shared, and resources that are really out there for all of us to use. I know it's not a huge group, so what I would say is if people have questions or I'd love it to be interactive. I know it's a little difficult, but if there are questions or things that come up, you can put them in the chat, and if we can answer them in real time, great. If not, I know Jessie allotted for some time at the end of the session. So we all know as Reach Out and Read champions that Reach Out and Read, literacy awareness and the ability to promote literacy starts even before the appointment. It really starts the minute that the family comes into the waiting area. And then once they're in the waiting area, it continues as they go through the screening process, as they go into the exam room. And we know that when families are surrounded by books and things that promote literacy and encourage interactions between parents and children and staff, it really reinforces the guidance that we share during the well visits. Do you want to advance the slide, Jess? Okay. Thank you. So just a little overview. I know everyone on this call knows it, but there are really three components to the Reach Out and Read model: the books, the environment, and the anticipatory guidance and the advice that we give parents to encourage that early relational health and that bonding between parents and children. So the books, we give out books at every well visit, starting in the newborn visit or 6 months, hopefully at the newborn visit. I'll go to the environment. We try to have a literacy enriched environment, and we'll talk about some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that exist. It looks different in different sites. I know some sites are allowed to have posters or allowed to have books in the waiting room or allowed to have information. Some sites are a little bit more restricted. And then the what I call the anticipatory guidance, here is the training, how we speak to families and model reading aloud and give them really concrete anticipatory guidance about ways they can promote early relational health, that bonding, that parent-child interaction that is so important for early brain development and so important as a positive childhood experience to counterbalance all the negative or the adverse childhood experiences that families may be exposed to. Next slide. Okay, so I just wanted to give a few examples because, as I mentioned, sort of when you walk into a pediatric office or clinic, the first thing that the families see is what's around them, right? What's on the walls, what's in the waiting area. And I put a few pictures, some examples from our site, but I want to, and I'll talk a little bit about challenges in a minute, but I don't know, and people can write in the chat. I don't know what it looks like in other places, but we used to have books out in the waiting room on the tables for people to read as they were waiting. During COVID, that became a little bit more problematic. People said these are focuses of infection. You're not allowed to have it. So that was something that we had to pivot a little bit. We also used to have handouts. We're not allowed to have paper. Everything has to be laminated. So what we've sort of pivoted to, as you can see in the middle, those are areas where families are being screened. So we have messaging on the walls, and Blair's going to be talking a little bit more about that, about transforming your environment. But we have things on the walls that either the staff or the parent can speak to the child about. So as you can see, stretch your thinking as a child is being measured, the parent can talk to them and say, hey, look at this. Look how tall the giraffe is. How tall are you? Same thing, size it up. Like who's bigger, an elephant or a mouse? So things to really sort of promote those early childhood interactions and that early relational health that we know is so important. And at the same time, also promote the building blocks of what's going to become early literacy. So those are just two examples. I wanted to also give some, and on the left side, the upper left, you can see those are just two. Thank you. You can see those are just two of the visuals that we have in the waiting area. So as people are sitting and waiting, and I'm sure we're not different than other sites where kids often have to wait to see the provider, especially on a busy resident clinic day, we have things that parents can look at, play peekaboo with your child, right? Things that you can engage with to give people something to sort of occupy their time, but also have those positive experiences that children really need. So like I said, that engagement starts before they even get to the doctor, promoting things like games that they can play, having books so that they can read together is another thing that is really positive. And then the other things you can see, things like I Spy games. So when we renovated the clinic, part of the decor was having those sort of graphic designs on the walls that are on different themes and that are basically an I Spy game. So parents can sit there with the kid and say, where is the castle? Where is the basketball hoop? Or when I'm in the exam, in the exam room with the family, and I want to sort of either keep the child occupied or assess, right, a child's language skills or fine motor, I can say, can you show me where the strawberry is? Or where is the person running? Where's the basketball hoop? Or I can point to this and say, do you know what this is? Can you tell me what this is? So depending on the developmental age of the child, I might ask them to point at something. I might ask them to label something. I might ask them to tell me what color. And, hopefully pediatricians in training have incorporated all that developmental assessment tools into their heads. And really the environment and a literacy rich environment can be used as an adjunct and as a way to assess a family's development, a child's development as they're going through it, and really reinforce the messages that we're sending about those parent-child interactions. And one of the things I love about this, particularly with the I Spy and the messaging on the wall, is that not every parent knows how to play a game with their child. So showing them how we can do it, modeling for them is really fun. And it's something that I can say to the parent, why don't you take a turn? Why don't you show? I also, one of the things that I've always done this as part of my trainings, and the first thing I tell the residents, when you go into the room, bring the book with you. right? Let's say someone's been waiting, the child is cranky, they're sitting there crying. That 2-year-old who's, tearing down the whole place, when you come in with a book and you say to the parent, I'm so sorry you've had to wait, and you go to the child and you give them the book, when you see what the child does with the book, does the child take it and jump into the parent's lap and say, read to me, read to me? Or do they bop the parent on the head, which could be developmentally appropriate too, or seeing how the parent reacts to that. Do they take it? Do they sit? Do they say, hey, come, Johnny, let me read to you? You get so much information about that interaction and about that parent-child bond. So I just can't say how much. I always tell our doctors, please bring it in at the beginning of the visit. Use it to help you. It will get you a lot of points with the family, but it will also be a very useful tool for you. Okay, we can go to the next slide. A couple of things I've already mentioned, but after COVID, sort of having books in the waiting room became more of an issue. The way I message it, we have books, we have extra books, we have books that are used. I'll say, hey, these books are being given away. So like you break it, you buy it, you touch it, you take it. So if anyone comes around and says, well, why do you have these books? I'm like, oh, no, they're to be given out. Families can have them, they can use them, they can take them. So I know not everyone has enough supply for that, but if you do have gently used books, it's a great way to have them in the waiting room. Again, I just have to mention having TVs. We had a big issue where, administration wanted TVs in the waiting room. I feel, as a pediatrician and as a Reach Out and Read champion, having screens in the waiting room is sending the absolute wrong message. Even if it's educational or anything like that, it's really not. We should be, I know it's hard, but we should be promoting engagement, interactions with families, having, our message when we have a big TV up there and we put on mind-numbing cartoons, we're sending the exact wrong message. So we were able over time to have those taken out. But I think even what they call educational videos, I just don't think that that's the right thing to do in a waiting room. Again, so a lot of problems having volunteers. I found it's quality over quantity. We have a few dedicated volunteers who come. We give them a tote bag with books. They can go around, they can model reading, they can read to families. I find often they end up reading to the parents. A lot of our parents are very young. A lot of them aren't as comfortable reading. So having someone who engages both the parent and the child and makes the parent feel comfortable reading with the child is an amazing thing. And again, just a little plug, making sure that all of your doctors are trained, are part of the program, understand the best way, best practices is really great. We are happy to come from Reach Out and Read and do trainings, give boosters. If you need some cheerleading for your residents, we're always happy to do it. Next slide. And then again, just, Blair is going to talk a lot about this, so I'm going to leave it for her. But obviously during our visits with our families, we're focusing on the child, right? We're focusing on the medical needs. We're focusing on the parent, especially for parents of young children, what their needs are, postpartum depression, parental mental health. I think for a lot of families, I don't need to remind everyone, for those early visits, we're the only professionals until they go to their postpartum OB visit. We're really that doctor that they're going to be connecting with. Our practice is that practice they're going to be connecting with. So being attentive to the needs of the parents is so important. And then focusing on that relationship, right? I love telling parents, you are your baby's first doctor, first doctor, first teacher. You're reinforcing that, making them feel special, feel comfortable, and focusing on that interaction, and reinforcing and commenting and praising and modeling for them and praising the great things that they're doing and maybe giving them suggestions about things that maybe they could do more of or reinforce is so important. And again, like they don't go to that OB visit, I think, for 6 weeks. So we have this opportunity and then continuously over the first years of life to really focus on that parent-child relationship. So next slide. And then finally, as I mentioned before, sort of using the physical exam as a teachable moment, right? Modeling how you can talk and sing and engage with the baby, even holding a baby. Like my dad, who is a pediatrician, had a way he would hold babies to soothe them sort of on their bellies like this. And taking a baby who's screaming and showing them how I can gently use this hold, how I talk to them, how I can sit there with the book and read to them, it really goes a long way, particularly for a lot of our parents who are younger and who were not read to when they were children. Um, Showing, pointing out things for the parents about how their baby's responding to their voice, how the baby's staring at them. Parents love this. And I know it seems pretty obvious, but for a lot of families, it's really not. And then again, at every visit, sort of working in that information about promoting early relational health, early bonding, language development, at every step along the way is so important. And I always tell my residents, this does not, I know it sounds like a lot, this does not have to take you one more minute. You can be doing this in the context of your visit. And Blair is going to be talking about some of the training tools that we have for our doctors so that they feel like this is actually going to, I say it actually decreases time, doesn't increase time of visit. So I am going to, I think next slide, turn it over at this moment. I know I talked about a lot. Um, I want to turn it over to Blair, who's going to be talking about concrete tools, strategies, amazing resources that we have to promote early relational health, early literacy, early development. So there you go. I'll be quiet now. And if again, we're going to take questions at the end, but if anything comes up, just post it and we'll try to get to it.
Awesome. Well, my disclosures and confessions are that Leora Mogilner was my preceptor as a resident and inspired me on all of this. And I used to say, giving the book in the visit, it was like giving a party favor, right? It was bringing joy into the room. And I feel like her teaching and guiding and mentorship really made me come to understand the importance of relationships and the importance of promoting development and learning as part of what is primary care. And so I am fortunate enough to again be invited by Jessie, who's amazing, to talk about collaboration and how we use collaboration to promote relationships development and early literacy. And I don't know how many people here have heard of the Mount Sinai Parenting Center resources. I don't know if people can raise their hand. Is that a feature you can do on your little thing? If you can. For those, okay, some hands are going up, some fist bumps, thumbs up. Okay, great. For anyone who does not know about the resources, by all means, there's a QR code right here. And Roxana, who's also joining me from the Parenting Center, will put in the links in the chat right there. But just so, I mean, the whole vision of the Parenting Center, Jesse, if you'll go to the next slide, is really this idea, as Leora mentioned, to think about how do we transform pediatric healthcare by maximizing the many little opportunities to promote strong parent-child relationships and early childhood development within healthcare interactions. And as Leora says, like when you walk into that waiting room, when you go up to the front desk person, when you're sitting, going, when you're getting screened, there are so many little moments, right? And so many parents don't have time to attend a class, right? And or read books on all these things. So how can this healthcare space help teach about that early brain development? Help, as Leora said, discuss, model, notice, and celebrate the type of caregiver interactions that help promote early child development and learning and literacy and things like that. And so if you go to the next slide, Jesse, we have partnered with Reach Out and Read actually to create almost all of the resources at the Parenting Center because we are so appreciative and grateful of the expertise that the Reach Out and Read leaders have. And for those who might not know about our resources, if you go to the next slide, we have a whole platform of resources. And as Leora mentioned, we have the Keystones of Development curriculum. And although this curriculum was originally designed to train residents about promoting early child development and relationships and positive caregiving behaviors, we have now expanded it so anybody can do this curriculum. We'll talk about it more in a moment, but we hope it does, as Leora says, figure out ways that you can, in the moment, discuss, model, and sort of praise, notice, and celebrate different caregiver behaviors and developmental concepts. Then we have a slew of other resources. And I am embarrassed as Leora was like, no screens and stuff. Some of them are video type of things. So we do have the Caring for Your Newborn video. And this is a video we actually share with all of our families on our postpartum floors at Mount Sinai Hospital. It actually has over like 2 million views. It's available in English and in Spanish. And it discusses common medical concerns, right? How often to feed a baby, when to call the doctors, little things like sleep and bathing and stuff like that, but also talking about the amazing amount of brain development, right? I always think I want to make sure that every family, before they leave the hospital with their newborn baby, instead of being told, don't shake the baby, that they're told actually also what to do with the baby, that they're told that there's over 1 million new nerve connections made every second in their baby's brain. And as Leora mentioned, how they are their baby's favorite toy, right? It's their voice and their face and their touch and the smell, and that the little things that they can do, like talking to that baby, reading to the baby, doing that skin to skin. I say I prescribe snuggles, how that actually helps develop that child's early learning and brain development, right? And how do we really lean into the importance of the relationship and the back and forth interactions as not a nice to have, but a must have, foundational for children's health and wellness. So again, this video is available in English and Spanish. We have it without Mount Sinai's logo on it. If you're like, I'm at Cornell, I'm at NYU, I'm not giving a Mount Sinai video to people. We 100% agree. And so you can share it with any of your families there. We then went on to create a video series, which is 8 minutes long. And this was created with an interprofessional team of people from like the AAP, 0 to 3, Brazelton Touchpoints, leaders in DEI, nutrition, safety, sleep, all these things to create a video series. I almost think of it like a brief video version of something called Bright Futures for those who might know what Bright Futures is. So it addresses common parenting concerns about nutrition, sleep, safety, but also about their child's development and learning and relationships and common struggles parents have, like why doesn't he listen at this age? Why are they throwing food? Why won't they sleep through the night? All this stuff. And it has parent testimonials, group of parents really sharing what's hard at this age, and experts also speaking. And so, how do these videos help families feel like they're in a community of others, hopefully, who are experiencing these same type of behavioral challenges, and how actually some of those challenging moments are actually ways to promote connection and to promote development? And how can we share the importance of book sharing at these moments, in the videos, and share the type of back and forth interactions that help promote learning and development in a way that doesn't seem like you're not doing this and you really should, but rather like these are challenges. Oh, what can we do? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And hopefully parents will see there, oh my gosh, I'm doing some of this stuff too. Oh my gosh, I am already doing it, to help reinforce those behaviors parents may be doing, being like, does this even matter? And it's like, yeah, that does matter. It does matter when you do things like peekaboo, as Leora was saying, or I Spy, those type of games. And then we've created parent handouts that go along with each of the well visits on all different types of topics, including, we'll share some of those. And we do staff training and physical messaging. And Leora shared some of the physical messaging, like, the one with the elephant and the giraffe and the peekaboo and even playing Simon Says and things like that, how we can help transform the space. So there's messaging on the walls to remind both, providers and staff and parents of like little things they can do while they wait. And then we also have a staff training that I'll talk about more, that anyone is welcome to join. And Kina is just a research collaborative for people who are excited about this and want to think about more ways they can incorporate and assess and evaluate what they're doing. All right, Jesse, next slide. Okay, so for those who don't know, the Keystones of Development focuses on 6 keystones: secure attachment, autonomy, self-regulation, perspective taking, problem solving, and academic knowledge. And it thinks about these keystones in almost a preventive promotional model. And we chose these keystones because they're well supported by research. They're largely dependent on parent or caregiver behaviors. They're able to be promoted through little teachable moments, right, in the healthcare space, and they're strongly predictive of later well-being. I will confess, it's a 4-hour online curriculum. You can watch it at 1.25 speed. It can be faster. It's broken down into little clips. And so it's broken down. There's an exam room section that's broken down by age. And then there's a classroom section that is actually the science behind each of these keystones. And there are additional resources on the platform too for people. But we really, in creating the keystones of development, already were thinking about like, okay, how do we, and I don't know if anyone's seen this, I mean this only in the nicest way, but I as a resident used to be like, here's your book. Yay. Okay, bye-bye. Like not modeling it, not doing it. I'm like, here is a 2-month-old. Here's your book. Okay, great. There's a book. Want to pick a book? We really try to incorporate in this training, like how do you do age-appropriate book sharing, with families and weave it into the well visit, as Leora said, bringing that book in early, etc. And so I'm going to show a few examples right now from the curriculum, and just knowing that we do try and train all pediatric residents on this, but anyone else can also use these resources, of course, share the keystones with everyone. Okay, so next slide. This is, again, a clip. Oh, wait, did the slide just go off? Okay, so, and hopefully, Jesse, are you sharing sound, by the way? Just make sure you're sharing.
That's what I'm doing. Yes, my apologies.
Okay, great. Sharing sound makes a difference. Okay, so this is an example from the module, the newborn 1-month, 2-month module from the exam room section of Keystones, talking about book sharing. Okay, sorry. Feel free to play it at 1.25 speed.
But no matter what language you speak, you can never go wrong with a good book. It's the perfect tool for a parent to use to introduce new words and ideas. And it is never too early for babies to look at books with their families. In addition, reading together can teach perspective taking and promote the parent-child connection. In this example, we offer the family a book through Reach Out and Read. If you have a book to give at this visit, it's a great opportunity to show parents how to use it. If not, you can still reinforce these messages. Look, Jaden, I have a book for you and your mama. Looking at books together will give you lots of things to talk about. It's so exciting that I can start reading to Jaden already. Absolutely you can, but keep in mind, babies don't look at books the way older kids do, so it can feel awkward at times. The key is getting him to look from your face over to the book, like this. You don't even need to read the words on the page. You can just show Jaden the pictures, talk with him about it, and even make up your own stories. Look at that baby in the book. He's almost as cute as you are. Where's the baby's nose? Here it is. And here's your nose. The more you share stories or sing with Jaden, and the more you respond to the noises and gestures he makes, the easier it will get. You'll see, looking at books may even become one of his favorite things to do. And yours too. Studies show that the more parents read and talk with their babies, the better prepared children are when they eventually go to school. You are Jaden's first brain builder.
Sort of like Leora said, your child's first teacher. Okay, and now here's another example from an older age, right? So how you talk about book sharing at 12, 15, and 18 months is different than younger. So again, this is from the Keystones.
If you have the opportunity, giving a book through Reach Out and Read or any available program in your clinic can be a great way to capture a child's attention and connect. It also lets families know that literacy promotion is super important. In addition, caregivers who have a low level of literacy themselves or who were never read to as children may not feel comfortable or even know what to do with a baby book. So having a book there gives you the opportunity to demonstrate how to read or talk about the pictures in a book with their babies in a simple way where all caregivers can succeed. Now, back to where we left off. You remember, it was loud. It's okay, Kyla. The doctor is very nice.
Kyla, I have a present for you. It's a board book. Do you like books? Where's Kyla? There she is. Do you get a chance to read with her at home?
She likes books, but only looks at them for a couple of minutes and then moves on to other things.
Right. At this age, kids rarely sit still for very long. You have lots of things to look at and explore, right, Kyla? Oh, look. There's a mama bunny. What is she doing? Yes, she's looking for her baby. And where is the baby bunny? Oh, that is a beautiful yellow flower. Yeah, and look, here is the baby bunny. I am so glad you're sharing books with her. It's a wonderful way for her to learn new words and ideas, and it's okay if she skips pages, too. At this age, she's still just exploring what books are about. When she's a little older, she'll be able to sit for a longer time and listen to a whole story. The more you practice, the more she'll learn. But for now, just let her lead the way. Studies have shown that reading aloud, or even making up stories and telling them to babies, helps their brains develop.
So those are resources that are focused on training like providers, staff, etc., who are interacting with families. And they give you ideas and samples of things you could say with families, right? Things you can model, things you can notice and celebrate in the room. Sparks videos are meant to go directly to the families. We also use them to train residents, but you can see it's a little different. They, as I mentioned, are more parent testimonials, talking back and forth, and these resources are available, as I mentioned, in English and in Spanish. So if you go to the next slide, Jessie, this is a clip from the 6-month-old video. So again, these are 8-minute videos, and it talks about different things, and this is just a clip talking about everyday play.
Everyday play.
At this age, learning is not just about stimulating their minds, but it's also about helping them discover how to move and use their bodies.
We used to play peekaboo. That was the game my daughter loved. She loved to go under the blanket and go like that.
At this age, your baby's still not quite sure that even though your face is hidden, you're still there. Games like peekaboo help them develop this ability called object permanence. Practicing this will eventually help your baby understand that while you may leave for periods of time, that doesn't mean that you won't come back to them. Science shows that babies understand many words long before they can say a single one. Babies learn words by hearing them in everyday conversations. When they can connect words with real-life activities, they learn language on a much deeper level. Try to find ways to fill your baby's day with words, whether you're on the go, at home, in the bathtub, and even before bedtime.
This off for you, okay? You feeling a bit warm?
We love books. It was such a useful tool to be able to introduce her to the larger world, to be able to just even point out colors and objects.
My little one, obviously he doesn't know what the words are, but he would just be kind of glued to the pages.
Looking at pictures and talking to them about what they can see can be even more valuable than reading the words on the page. Babies at this age respond well to books with different textures and bright colors. Granted, they won't pay attention for long, so when they're done, follow their lead and move on to something else. Babies can learn more than one language at a time. So speak to your baby in whatever language you're most comfortable with.
Okay, so that's one example from the Sparks video. And here's now an older age at 18 months in this video talking about how you can read together with your 1.5-year-old.
Reading together.
Reading looks different at every age, and your toddler may not be able to sit still for a whole book or may want to hear the same story over and over. There are many different ways to use a book to encourage learning.
Oftentimes we don't read from front to back all in order, and that's totally okay.
I would say most days we're looking at books with her, and it could be the same book 12 times. It could be different books. It could be 2 pages of 12 books.
Reading has always been a really critical part of parenting for us, discussing feelings or even talking through like what the characters are doing and not just reading the words.
Okay, I'm going to answer some of these questions that people just put in the chat in just a moment. I promise I'll get to all of them. So the videos, those are examples of the videos. I'll show you how we share them in our practice and other ideas for that too. And I just want you to know that in addition to the videos for parents, as I mentioned, it also can be used as a tool to train residents and for preceptors in clinics. So we have a whole user guide that goes along with it. Sort of obsessed with it, I must confess, and I can say that openly because I did not create this. 0 to 3 actually helped create it. There's a table of contents. You can click on the table of contents. It drops down to that state age. It tells you what's in the video in a brief blurb, and then it has a spotlight on a specific topic. So there's a spotlight on like learning through play is one, and it goes deep dive into that. There's a spotlight at 4-month-old, on the 4-month-old one on like what is temperament. There's a spotlight at the 9-month-old on like what's co-regulation. There's a spotlight on co-viewing and screen time in the 18-month-old and like managing challenging behaviors. And so there's a spotlight, and then after it has reflection questions. So if you teach residents like things the resident can reflect on, it also has prompts if you happen to teach residents on what the preceptor can do, questions that they can ask the residents related to this type of content too. So next slide, Jessie. And then, as I mentioned before, we have all of these handouts that go along with each of the well child visits for the first 5 years of life. And the handouts usually emphasize, it's just 5 different things, right? About caregiver child interaction. So the 6-month-old one, right, the first one is talking about telling your child goodbye, like waving bye-bye before you leave, never sneaking out of a room because that can worsen separation anxiety. It also talks about following your child's lead, right, in play and what they're looking at and what your child's looking at. How do you talk about that? And then it goes and talks about bedtime routines, right? And what Leora used to always say, like the 4 B's of bedtime, right? Like the bath, the bottle, the brush, and the book or whatever. Like, how do you come up with a significant, a structured bedtime routine that's the same and consistent, that involves a, snuggling moment, but also involves opportunities for the child to self-soothe. And hopefully, how can there also be some reading? That's part of it. And then it talks about play with peekaboo and stuff. There's an activity at the bottom of each of these handouts, actually created in partnership with Vroom, as some people might know about Vroom. So again, using the wait time as opportunities. If you give this handout, either if people are allowed to give out handouts with the book, or we often do it in the after visit summary, or so it electronically goes to families as a way to share this information with families. And then you can see the handout at the 4-year-old one is different, right? It talks about how do you break down tasks, big tasks, into smaller things. How do you use mistakes as opportunities to learn, involve your child in problem solving, and again, emphasizing reading, and then measuring and actually math things. And you can see there's actually a tip on the bottom by Mini Math, which is a free resource for families too that you can share. Okay, if you go to the next slide. So just so you know, in addition to those handouts that are age specific, if you go on the Parenting Center, either the website, the platform, or the app, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can see there are lots of different handouts broken down by age. So some of the handouts on like sleep, playing to learn, building a library, how to read to your child, finding your own parenting style. So there are other handouts in addition that are resources for families. Go to the next slide. And then thinking about like all these resources are great, and I think we all have the best intentions, but like, how do you actually incorporate all of this into practice, right? And how are you consistent, and how do you keep learning? And we've tried to help with that by, as I mentioned, creating an app for anyone in the healthcare space who works in the healthcare space. Again, it's not just for doctors, but for staff, anyone. And it has the keystones on there. It has all of our shareable resources on there that you can airdrop, view, show, etc. Watch while you're commuting, etc. For anyone. We also give a tip of the week that goes out for anyone who signs up for our resources. So once a week, there's a little tip. I sort of think about how do we make this learning longitudinal? How do we keep reminding ourselves of this type of content? As Leora said, this emphasis on relational health, positive caregiving behaviors, which we know is so foundational for children's early learning and development. And then how do we, again, weave into using our wait times for possibly viewing Sparks? So we have Sparks flyers in our waiting room. They're sort of laminated. They get screened by the MAs, and they are told to watch while they wait. We also have stickers up, and we also have messaging in our waiting room, and we also have cards we give out for the Caring for Your Newborn video. Go to the next, and then thinking about incorporating it. One other thing. All of our resources, I should have said, also incorporating it into the electronic medical record. Anybody who uses Epic, let me know, because there's now an early childhood development care plan that you can sign your patients up for, where they automatically get sent all of our resources based on their age. Like a video will be sent to them, or a handout will be sent to them, all that stuff through my chart. So, and we also, if you don't use Epic, we have ways and like smart phrases that you can include any of these resources into after visit summaries. Or if a parent might charts you with a question about sleep, okay, you can add something, use one of our resources with the smart phrases and stuff like that. Okay, sorry. And then this whole idea of how do we connect with others, right? How do we have our learning communities, those of us who care about relationships, literacy, development, those positive interactions, as Leora was talking about, how do we come together and learn more and talk more? So we have monthly training for anybody. And by the way, I don't know if I said this, all of our resources are free. Everything is free. Everything is available to be able. So once a month we do, it's called Vroom Plus Healthcare and staff training. And this is the training we'll show you in a minute, where we really talk about what are our moments with families? What are we currently doing? How do we think about what we discuss and what we model, what we recognize and notice, what we invite, right? And share, like invite them and share books with them, invite them and share the room with them, or messaging on the wall. This training went along with a physical transformation of Mount Sinai, where we put up messaging all over. And we've trained over 1,000 staff at Mount Sinai, but we've trained people from all over the country and even outside the country, people from Pakistan and Sweden, and have attended training. So really anyone is welcome to attend that. Residents can attend, front desk staff, security people, anyone. And then we also have every other month, we have a speaker series where we try to have guest speakers talk on specific topics. We had a talk on the explosive child. The most recent one we had last month was weaving in discussions of math and promoting early math in the healthcare space. And Roxana has just sent, thank you, Roxana, for putting in the chat links if you want to sign up for the monthly staff training, and she'll put it also in for speaker series things. And then we also have social media posts also as ways to just, again, how do we keep thinking about the learning and ways that we can discuss and innovate in the healthcare space about this. And then now, if you go to the next slide, I think we'll sort of, do you mind? This is just, so this is clips from the video that we show in the Vroom Plus Healthcare training. It is longer than this and it goes over content too, but just to sort of inspire you all.
As healthcare providers, we can help parents and caregivers have more of the kinds of nurturing experiences their children need for positive development. Families spend a lot of time here, waiting, watching, and interacting with our environment and our community. We are a part of their earliest moments as a developing family, and may be the only professionals they see in those critical first few years. They are learning from you. Whether you are doing an exam, bringing a food tray, cleaning a hallway, changing a diaper, offering education, dispensing medication, providing transport, making an appointment, we can all do our part to promote healthy brain development. Only you have your specific moment, and how you use it can make a difference in a family's life. Think back to why you chose to work in healthcare and with these patients. Now, think about your power to influence a child's success now and in the future, not only from a health perspective, but also their success in school, their ability to make friends, and develop lifelong relationships. Join us in making every healthcare moment count.
Okay. Next slide. Next slide. In addition to these resources, and Leora has really helped with this, and the whole Reach Out and Read team, actually, we came up with a reflection form, thinking about how do we reflect on our practice with families as providers, both for residents and for those out in clinical practice. Here's sort of a sample of the things that we look at it, like how do you greet the patient and caregiver with interest? How do you include the patient in back and forth conversations, even if they're, only a month old, right? And how do you find something to praise or to notice and celebrate? And then later on, talking about like explaining the long-term importance of positive caregiving behaviors and overall health, the long-term importance of book sharing, providing resources. And if you go to the next slide, it's then broken down by age, like what are the specific things you would do at an age? So like the 4 to 5 year old visit, like things, did you discuss, did you model? We say praise here, it's really noticed and celebrated. By the way, that's praise sounds sort of condescending, but like how do you show delight in a child? How do you validate their emotions? How do you have those back and forth conversations? How do you emphasize a growth mindset and learning from mistakes? How do you do age appropriate book sharing, right? And ask questions. What do you think is going to happen next? How does that, all the different ways we can use books in the room, as was mentioned. And then just thinking about all these resources, if you go next, we are so excited to collaborate with all of you. We are excited. I mean, again, we're trying to make sure that our resources are as relevant and helpful to everyone out in practice. And I feel so fortunate to, have been mentored and continue to be mentored by Leora, and she connected me with Jesse and the whole ROR team of Greater New York. And I know she's going out and sharing our resources and stuff with practices. And again, we created the Reach Out and Read reflection form with keystones based on collaborative thoughts. So again, any reflections, any questions, any suggestions, we're excited to figure out how we can, again, reach every family and really emphasize the importance of relationships and learning and literacy as part of children's health.
I just wanted, that was amazing. Thank you, Blair. I know a bunch of people have asked about how they get the resources, and I know Roxana put in email addresses. I also just wanted to say, for sites that haven't had an in-person, particularly if you have a large site or you have residents, if you want to have an in-person, either on Zoom or actually in person, like throwback, Reach Out and Retraining, we can arrange that. And you can be in touch with Jesse, myself, because back in the day, we used to go, there was a team of us who would go to different sites all over the city and do in-person trainings. And I feel like, and especially now, we can do that in conjunction, I'm sure, with the parenting center and sort of incorporate those resources into it. Because I really do think that there's something about that ability to sort of be in a site and have interaction. And I think for a lot of the residents, it's really nice to hear from people from other sites how they do things and kind of how important it is, the impact that they can have as providers starting at the beginning of their residency. So I just wanted to share that. I know there was a question from Dr. Siegel about having the videos.
Yeah. So I was going to say, so right now, first off, lots of things there. I will also just piggyback on that. We like Leora said, like we 100% do so many trainings and grand rounds and talks. Again, it's really thinking of this broader, like how do we promote attachment, autonomy, self-regulation, and book sharing, and how do we bring it all together? Leora and I have done talk for our residents, and we do it for residents, we also do it for faculty development sometimes, and as I mentioned, staff and whoever is interested. So we're excited about that too. As far as the Sparks videos, so we are currently in the process of creating, it's sort of like a reel, if that makes sense, where it's like clips from Sparks, because our one concern is if we had just been like, let's play the whole 2-month-old Sparks video, let's play the whole 18-month-old. Well, if you're there with a 3-year-old, you're like, oh, okay. You know, and some of it's relevant. So now we're trying to make it so it's like, here's a clip from a 3-year-old one, here's an 18-month-old, here's a this, and it will have an introduction. So we are in the process. Roxana, how close are we to being able to get that out to everyone? I don't know if you know yet, but
Not
it is
quite, but
coming very soon, coming soon
yeah.
to a theater near you, to a waiting room near you. We are going to have that so that you can have that playing in the background. And again, you know, I think as all of us know, you know, with that the former Surgeon General's report on the loneliness and isolation of parents, right? The mental health and well-being of parents and how we know how overwhelmed so many families feel. I like to think about how the Sparks videos can also hopefully help families feel less lonely, help them feel more in the shared space and recognize the little things they're doing that make a difference. So hopefully it can be a good messaging that is there. Yes. Dr. Siegel.
Yeah, hi. That was just absolutely fantastic. I just loved your entire presentation. It was amazing. And I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you for some training for the people at health and hospitals and through our pediatric council. But, you know, one of the things I was thinking about is we have really pushed so that patients don't wait in the waiting rooms. The average wait time, if you show up at here at South Brooklyn Health, if you have an appointment, is 10 minutes in the waiting room. But you spend a lot of time in the exam room. So the PCA, the MA, whatever, puts the patient in the room with the mom, and they spend a lot of time just sitting there. And, you know, and I constantly see them on the phone. Could this be actually put on our desktops and the PCA could actually
That's yes, and actually we have some of the residents in our clinic often will just queue up the thing, and then we also have my stickers are downstairs. We also have stickers on the back of our computer that it says Sparks and there's a QR code, and then we have those watch while you wait things. So that's often the case too for us, and they might you might even come into the room fast, but then the wait to get the blood draw or the wait to get the vaccine, like they are sitting there. And so again, how do we have this? And our goal is for it really to feel like this information is coming from the caregiver. So we love it in some ways, even being in the room, because it really feels like it's part of your visit.
Yeah.
And I will also say, like the safety elements were done by Ben Hoffman, who you might know, the former AAP president.
I ran against him. He won. I lost.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even okay, sorry. I didn't even know. I'm like classic. I'm sticking my foot in my mouth. If you talk enough, you'll do it all the time. Okay, but like the one that talks about gun safety talks in a level that I don't even fully feel comfortable saying. And so I sort of feel like it's a safety net. And when patients are complicated, medically complicated, psychosocially complicated, sometimes you get distracted from talking about how play is learning, or talking about what empathy is, or talking about the 4-year-old Sparks video. It's my favorite thing. It talks about how you become your child's inner voice. And the parents are first like, I realized my inner voice was really harsh. And it talks about how do you like negative labels, and like when my child went and kicked over the Lego set of his other child, or when it did and so so there's a lot in there that hopefully can be helpful for providers, for us to feel like, thank God someone's covering it. And then also for us to build upon that content. So
Fantastic.
100%, we have so many ideas, and we like to say, how do we personalize it in your institution? And I don't know if you know this. Okay, I'm going to forget her name. Margaret, someone or other. I will find it. But she actually made it for all of the New York City health and hospital system, that in the after visit summary in English or in Spanish, that one type of handout that I showed you goes into the after visit summary, just so you know.
I'm going to look for that. Thank you so much.
It's definitely
Fabulous.
at Elmhurst, but it might be elsewhere. And Leora knows nothing I love more than giving a presentation to residents. It's my fave.
And I will say, like, if you don't have, so we have computers in the rooms. Sometimes it can be, people get you can put things on the computer, you can start a video. Sometimes people don't want to sort of have that going in case the family starts using the computer. But if they have their own devices, the QR codes can be really great, because it can, so having the QR codes laminated on the wall so parents can can loop into those is great, or if you can have them in a loop. The other thing is just also like the interactive nature of the exam room. If there are games and things that they can play that are sort of incorporated into design, I think that also, and I'm very impressed. 10 minutes or less, Warren, is like amazing.
We worked hard to do this one.
Yeah.
Well done. And then the other thing I will say is we worked hard also in the Sparks videos to have there be children playing in ways that a child will look at and you could be like, look at what that child's doing. And one of the things I need to think about is to think about the training of the medical assistants to be like, you can point out what they're doing to your child. You can make it a fun, interactive, like, and it does specifically talk about limiting screens and what type of screens in some of the videos too. But yes, all of those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And another thing that is sort of the next thing we're doing, I don't know if anyone's heard of Bright by Text. It's now called Lantern, but Lantern sends out text. They have over 500,000 families on it. That's like once or twice a week, a family gets a text about ways to promote early relationships, stuff like that, and health things like the AAP posts through it, local resources based on the family's zip code. Like, is there a food pantry that's doing something special? Is there a library? Stuff like that. So we're also working with them to get more resources out and actually reach out and read. And I spoke with them, like, we're trying to figure out who can be the experts in the field, being like, here's a way to Bookshare, here's a way to this. Like, so we all, again, bring into this healthcare space the importance of all of these little interactions.
The other thing I just wanted to say was about the reflection tool. If people have questions about that and are interested in using it or how they could think about it, they should definitely reach out to Blair and myself. I think it's a really nice tool sort of as an adjunct for precepting. I mean, obviously, even if you're not a resident, you can do this to see kind of how things are, but we're definitely thinking about different opportunities for this to be incorporated into resident education.
Yeah, and especially the new behavioral mental health rotation. We do it in our behavior and like development rotation. I'm also always happy to share how we incorporate all of this into our training. So we're excited.
Well, thank you both so much for such an amazing, engaging presentation. I did see that Roxana answered a lot of the questions that were asked. Once again, this town hall was recorded, so we can send the recording to you so that you can share it with your staff. But if you have any suggestions for future town halls or future topics, please reach out to us. I will also send Roxana, Dr. Blair, and Dr. Mogilner's information in my follow-up email. Thank you all so much for joining and have an amazing rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy Friday, everyone. And thank you, Jesse, and everybody for being here. I always say we call it early relational health, but it's really relational health. And how are we all supportive of each other?
Amazing.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.